This is Devora Krasnianski, and I recently listened to a podcast, actually a webinar by ISM Independent School Management, which is a premier uh, network for private schools, and pretty expensive membership. And so we listened into this talk about tuition, and I want to share what I learned. So he was talking about different types of recessions, and of course we don't know what kind of recession we're going into, but we should plan for the V and U-shaped recessions. And he described the V shape as we know, it went down, but it would quickly go up, like by the recovery would be before the next school year, so just like over the summer. Or a U-shaped recovery, which as you see in the picture went down, as we know, and is going up more slowly than the V shape. And according to the economist that he's working with, the U shape, we should have a recovery by the end of the calendar year. So that means like next winter or early spring. Then really bad case scenarios would be a W shape, which is like a second wave of problems, or the L shape, which is just goes down and pretty much stays down. So he recommends to plan for a V and U shape, meaning what would you do if the for those people who have owe money or tuition and they get the money flowing back by the beginning of the next school year or by the next winter. And he says that most economists are expecting a U shape. Some people are expecting some level of a W shape, but he's not talking for that. And so we'll talk about what he means by a U-shape recovery and a V shape. Of course, you know, at this point, you might have, and you probably should expect, a decrease in your enrollment or new enrollments because people are afraid. You may get some tuition and fee revenue going down, and some of your fundraising revenue going down. And at the same time, you're probably going to be getting financial aid applications, from new applications from new families, and families already receiving aid wanting more aid. So you have to plan for all of that. This is the actual slide from the talk, and it's about strategies for V and U-shaped recessions. Firstly, as it says here on the bottom, make this financial aid program separate from your regular one and call it rainy day aid or emergency aid or needs-based aid. It's a separate program, and it has a different way of processing, a different way of applying, and a different type of award. Keep it separate and make it comfortable for them to apply, make it comfortable for them to start the conversation. But if they're not starting the conversation, but you have heard that they probably need it, maybe some people's pride and ego or just confusion is not allowing them to come to the conversation. You can start it. You check in on the family and you can talk about, I heard we're here to help in any way. And we can even talk about tuition, financial aid from our rainy day or our COVID or our needs-based aid. Provide a FAQ sheet, put it on the website or send it out as an email to everybody. Some people may be complaining to a friend and wouldn't come to you. They may not have read the email, but a friend can send it to them even if they are really not needs-based. Of course, some people will see that you're offering it and they may come forth even if they don't need it. So word it in a way that it's honesty, but you also will be doing some verifications, and we'll talk about that in a minute. On the FAQ sheet, you can include a link to where the application form can be found, what information you'll need, what type of verification, how the award will be determined, and how long the award will last, and we'll talk about that. Now, one of the things that you'll have to assess and you'll have to verify is if it's a cash flow crisis, meaning they lost a job and they don't have money coming in, or is it an asset crisis, meaning that their business is worth much, much less now, or their house is worth less and they can't change they can't turn those assets into liquid, into money now. And so you'll have to decide what that might mean and do your due diligence. Okay, so don't make it overly complex, but do your due diligence because some people might want to take advantage, and you don't have to do this through your whole board and through some of those fast application forms or anything. You can use your own judgment. You know which families may be wanting to take advantage, so look at it more carefully. Some families have a lot of dignity and wouldn't be taking advantage, but generally you want something on record that you can, when you have to go to your board or when you have to go to fundraising or write off debt or whatever it is, you have some record of the financial aid application, for this application rather than for the general financial aid application. So things that you might ask for someone who is employed or was employed or furloughed or laid off. You can be asking for checking account statements, a letter from the employer describing if it was a furlough or what's going on, how much money they were making, and what kind of bonuses they're getting in the future. You might ask for pay stubs, a letter from the unemployment agency, their severance pay info, their unemployment benefits, how much they're getting. And remember the $600 stimulus package, and if any other stimuluses are coming from the government, keep that in mind as you calculate whatever it is that you're going to be calculating. For someone who is self-employed or has a business, it's much harder to verify. Again, somewhat is on the person themselves. You ask for the P&L statements and the bank statements. You can ask for the most recent audited financials. You can ask for a signed affidavit describing what's going on. Sometimes we would have done a lifestyle assessment, but it's very difficult because some people can still have their beautiful cars and beautiful homes, and people are not going on vacation, so you can judge on that and different things like that. And especially if it's a cash flow, meaning they still have the mortgage, they still have all these debt, but they don't have any of the cash coming in. And so one of the first places that they might choose to or need some more money is from the school. As far as what type of awards and how often are the awards, I recommend for the V-shaped recession to make monthly awards and reassess it monthly. And how do you reassess it? Well, you ask them to send in an email every month, or you call them up and ask them to send in an email every month. Firstly, that's a great way to keep in touch with them, and it's an excuse of why you're calling them or getting in touch with them, but it's also something that you can keep on record. And you would put this into the contract that it's a monthly award. If you're expecting or believing or that it's going to be a U-shaped recession, then you can either make it monthly, quarterly, bi-semester. Part of your decision may be how much time you have to work through all these reassessing and getting the new paperwork. So that might be part of your decision if it's a monthly or a quarterly or bi-monthly or whatever it is. At this point, they're really suggesting that you forgive late fees, make it easy for people to pay. Be ready to award more aid if people's situation gets worse. Like right now, they may be working or their business may be floating, but it may fall apart later on. You have a procedure for that. People may take advantage. They may, hopefully most of your people are honest, but people may take advantage. You might have like additional aid or new aid be part of a board approval when it's not so. Right now you're in a crunch and you have a lot of people asking for aid, so you don't have time for lots of conversation about it. But if someone's asking for a big aid, you may want to do it through board approval. But have your procedure in place before the question comes up. Now, a question that came up during his talk is, what about people who were late in paying tuition, and like they should have been paid up by March or April, but they weren't. Now they're asking for aid for what they owed for January. So this is a tricky question. It really depends. You can really keep that debt and tell them to pay it up in the future, or you could write it off. At this point, like they're suggesting, is don't write it off just yet. Hold on to it, but you can make your new financial aid in a way that they can pay off the old debt, but don't get into the habit of writing off old debt so that people will think I can push off my payment and you never know what will happen in the future. That was basically his prepared talk, and then lots of questions came in. Many questions are not relevant to preschools and to our school, so I'm not going to talk about those. Most important, he kept stressing over and over again, is help people see and actually feel that you're really on their side, not only in the language of your emails, but in the conversations as well. Question came in, what about people who were paying late? Should we offer aid retroactively? Like I said, better not. How do we convince a family to sign the tuition contract for the upcoming year if they don't know what their money is going to be and we don't know what their exact tuition is going to be? So change the wording of the contract a little bit, make a note in the contract or an addendum that the contract is contingent on the financial aid award and that you will change it accordingly. And if they will tell you what's going on for them, and if they are in a better position, they should pay the full tuition or their full whatever their tuition might have been without this extra financial aid award, and put that all into the contract. Now, people are requesting a refund. Should we give it? They were suggesting that specifically preschools should offer some sort of refund or understanding that the families are not getting the service, but ideally you wouldn't be writing out checks. You would be holding a credit for next year. Now, for graduating families, that's something that you might have to reconsider. You could ask them to give it as a donation, and you can kind of change your books and their books, do that with a lawyer or with an accountant. But for most other families, consider doing it as a credit for the upcoming year rather than writing them a check. What about have to apply every month if it's a monthly or quarterly? No, the idea, like I said earlier, is about having them update you or you asking for an email update, not a full application and verification. A signed affidavit every month would be enough. And remember, this connection is really important. Not only, in this application or this renewal, you can ask them other questions as well, mental health kind of questions, or just in general how the family is doing, so that you can get more information. Some people won't offer it in verbally, but if you have a little questionnaire, they may express something in that questionnaire that can be helpful for you to know how to best communicate with them or help them, or what's really going on for them. But don't make it contingent on the questionnaire, just provide the questionnaire. And the last question that was relevant to here is, do you recommend parents to defer the payments for next year, like for that it could be possibly the full amount, or saying now you can't pay it, so it's going to be a lesser amount? That's actually, he thought that was an interesting question. So if they were paying it now, they would want to pay and get financial aid. But if we push it off to July, they might pay the full amount. That's something that you have to talk to your economist and knowing the families, but make it across the board, or you can do it in each family individually, a separate contract for each family, but make it in a way that still feels fair and that you evaluated each family individually. It's that if one family has one situation and one family has a different payment situation, it won't become this favoritism. Have a procedure of how you determine if someone should defer or if someone should be paying now, and you may say that they're taking the risk, you're taking the risk, so that's why they're paying now for next year. And again, we don't know if next year is going to be a full school year or whatever. If they're getting the financial aid package starting in May for next year, that may be the risk that they are taking and you are taking, that you'll offer them a discount now or an needs-based aid. But if they're doing it in July, it would be a regular package without the aid. So again, it's really up to you determining with them, for the family, what it is that you're going to be doing. That's pretty much the summary of what they offered. If you want the full slides from them, I can give it to you, but really the most important piece, if you want it, definitely reach out by email, preschool@shluchim.org. I hope that my listening and working on this was helpful to you. If you have any other questions about financial aid, definitely reach out. We have some accountants and other schools that can possibly be helpful. So let's talk about it.